time of Jesus, there were two types of teachers. One teacher would take the law and create many, many little laws underneath it to make sure that people were following that one law. The other type of teacher would be the one who would take the law and try to simplify it so that people would understand and make it easier for them to follow. Jesus, in today's gospel, shows us what kind of a teacher he is, for he takes all of the laws and reduces them to two: that you love God with your entire being and love your neighbor as yourself. Later on, before Jesus was to be ascended into heaven, he even condensed the law even further. And he said to his disciples, "You are to love one another as I first loved you." He took all the laws of the Old Testament and condensed them into one. And I have to confess that when I was reading today's gospel at home, I got very angry because I'm finding it very hard to follow today's gospel. It's very hard for me to love my neighbor as myself. When we hear people kneeling on people's necks and killing them, when we hear peaceful crowds being dispersed with tear gas and rubber bullets so that pictures may be taken in front of a cathedral, when we hear people being constantly called names and ridiculed and put down, when we hear of a lack of respect for our brothers and sisters, whether they be black, white, Asian, Mexican, Latino, or any other nationality, it makes me very difficult. It gives me great pain to hear the words, "You are to love your neighbor as yourself." Yes, it's easy to love the one who was on the ground and being knelt upon. I'm finding it very difficult to find room in my heart for the 4 police officers who stood around and allowed that to happen. I'm finding it very difficult to love those who are making excuses for immoral actions and for the way people are being treated. Certainly people can hold Bibles, but when they hear the words, "You are to love your neighbor as yourself," I don't understand the contradiction that takes place at that moment. I find myself to be very angry. I'm angry at myself because I don't like to be angry and I don't like to dislike people so strongly. I'm fearful. I'm sad. I'm discouraged. I'm experiencing all forms of negative emotions because of what is happening in our world today. The gospel truly is a challenge, at least to me, to love my neighbor as myself. Those words will probably be staying with me for a very long time as I continually try to clean my heart of the anger, the despair, the fury, the fear, and the many other negative emotions that I am experiencing at this time. I'm sure I don't speak only for myself as far as the feelings that I'm feeling. I'm sure, as I see you nodding your heads, I know that you also are experiencing many of the same things. It is now that we, as a people of faith, must turn to God so much more totally, for it is only God that can create something new, something different out of this chaos. Let us pray for each other, as I will pray for you, please pray for me, that we can somehow get over all the pain, all the anger, the sadness that each of us feels, and that we will allow ourselves to truly love our neighbor as ourselves.